The massive viewing chamber of the Galactic Council Station buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from 47 different species gathered to witness something unprecedented. Ambassador Zethkar of the Vorthak Empire adjusted his ceremonial battle claws for the third time in as many minutes, his scaled hide rippling with barely contained anxiety. Beside him, the crystalline form of Counselor Valandra chimed softly, her translucent body flickering between shades of deep purple and warning orange. "This is madness," Zethkar growled, his voice carrying the distinctive rumble that had once struck terror into the hearts of conquered worlds. No being in recorded galactic history has ever successfully approached a Drachmarie without being incinerated, devoured, or simply ceasing to exist from the sheer psychic pressure. Valandra's chimes grew more discordant. The humans insisted on this demonstration. Their representative was quite adamant that they could prove their species' capability for what they called diplomatic breakthrough. The Council agreed only because 3 separate probability matrices calculated the entertainment value of watching another species learn the hard way. Through the reinforced transparisteel barrier that separated the viewing chamber from the containment arena, they could see the subject of today's experiment. The Drachmarie, designated as Subject 7, dominated the center of the arena, its obsidian scales drinking in the artificial lighting and reflecting it back as an aurora of deadly beauty. Standing nearly 4 meters at the shoulder and stretching 12 meters from snout to tail tip, the creature was a living weapon that had evolved on a world where mercy was a foreign concept and survival demanded absolute lethality. The Drachmarie's 6 legs ended in claws that could shear through battle armor like tissue paper. Its elongated skull housed a brain capable of generating psychic fields strong enough to stop a charging warrior's heart at 30 paces. Most terrifying of all were the creature's eyes, 6 burning amber orbs arranged in pairs along its skull, each one capable of tracking movement with predatory precision while simultaneously analyzing the molecular composition of potential threats. Subject 7 had been captured during the pacification of the Outer Rim territories, one of only 12 Drachmarie ever taken alive. The other 11 had died in captivity within days, their alien metabolism unable to adapt to anything less than complete freedom. Subject 7 had endured 3 years of containment, growing more dangerous and unpredictable with each passing cycle. The creature's psychic emanations had required the installation of specialized shielding throughout the entire station, and even experienced xenobiologists refused to enter the same sector without full neural protection gear. "Attention, Council members," came the voice of Station Commander Yolek through the chamber's communication system. "The human representative has arrived and is proceeding to the preparation chamber. I must stress once again that this demonstration was undertaken against the explicit recommendations of our xenobiology department, our psychology specialists, and every military advisor who has reviewed the proposal." A murmur of anticipation rippled through the assembled dignitaries. The humans had joined the Galactic Council only 18 months ago, after their species had been discovered attempting to establish colonies in contested space without proper authorization or protection. Most council members had expected humanity to follow the typical pattern of newly contacted species, a period of overwhelming gratitude for being allowed to survive, followed by decades of careful integration under the guidance of more established civilizations. Instead, humans had proven frustratingly independent. They refused standard psychological conditioning protocols. Their ships consistently outperformed mathematical projections, and their diplomatic corps had the audacity to suggest improvements to treaties that had maintained galactic peace for centuries. The humans claimed their species possessed something they called emotional intelligence that gave them advantages in interspecies relations that other civilizations had never developed. The Council had agreed to this demonstration primarily to prove that humanity's confidence was misplaced. The Drachmarie were universally acknowledged as the most psychologically dangerous species ever encountered. Their mere presence could drive lesser beings to madness, and Their aggression was so absolute that even the Vorthak Empire had never attempted to establish dominance over their homeworld. If humanity's vaunted emotional intelligence failed here, it would provide the Council with definitive proof the humans needed proper supervision. "The human is entering the preparation chamber now," Commander Yolek announced. Through a secondary viewing port, the assembled dignitaries could observe a small figure moving through the sterile white chambers that led to the arena. The human appeared impossibly fragile compared to the Drachmarie waiting beyond the barriers. Where Subject 7 was all sharp edges and predatory power, the human seemed soft, rounded, and utterly defenseless. Analysis indicates the human representative is a juvenile female, reported the station's AI in its characteristically emotionless tone. Age approximately 16 standard years. Height 1.6 meters. Mass approximately 55 kilograms. No visible weapons, armor, or protective equipment. Psychological scans indicate elevated stress responses consistent with normal fear reactions, but no signs of the catatonia typically associated with pre-exposure to Drachmarie psychic fields. Ambassador Zethkar's claws scraped against his armrest. They're sending a child? Even for humans, this seems like an excessive waste of genetic material. Perhaps they consider her expendable, suggested Counselor Melthara of the Hegemony, her insectoid features clicking with what passed for amusement among her species. Many species practice ritual sacrifice of their young to appease dangerous entities. It would explain their confidence in approaching the Council with such an impossible proposition. Through the viewing port, they watched as the human, the girl, paused before the final barrier that separated her from the arena. She appeared to be taking deep, measured breaths, her small hands pressed flat against her sides. Her appearance was typical of human juveniles. Brown hair pulled back in what their species called a ponytail, pale skin marked with the small imperfections that indicated a life lived under natural conditions rather than artificial enhancement, and clothing that prioritized comfort over protection. Subject 7 is becoming agitated, the AI announced. Psychic emanations have increased by 47%. Recommend immediate evacuation of all personnel from the adjacent sectors. Indeed, the Drachmarie had begun to move. The creature's massive head swung toward the approaching human, and its 6 eyes focused with laser intensity on the barrier that still separated them. The obsidian scales along its neck ridge began to glow with an internal light that spoke of energy building toward release. When the Drachmarie opened its mouth, rows of crystalline teeth reflected the arena, lighting like a constellation of tiny suns. The creature is preparing for immediate elimination of the perceived threat, observed Dr. Quintal, the Council's chief xenobiologist. Note the positioning of the limbs for maximum striking power, the dilation of the photoreceptors for enhanced targeting, and the thermal buildup in the cranial cavity that indicates preparation for plasma discharge. The human will likely be dead before she takes 3 steps into the arena. The final barrier began to retract. The girl stood motionless for a moment, framed in the doorway like a figure from an ancient painting. Beyond her, Subject 7 had risen to its full height, every line of its body speaking of death made manifest. The creature's psychic field washed over the viewing chamber despite the shielding, causing several of the more sensitive council members to retreat behind additional protection barriers. Then, the girl stepped forward. She moved with none of the hesitation that fear should have produced. Her steps were measured, deliberate, but not cautious. She walked like someone approaching a familiar friend, rather than the most dangerous predator in known space. Her eyes remained fixed on the Drachmarie, and, incredibly, she was smiling. Subject 7's head tilted in what xenobiologists recognized as a confusion response. The creature's psychic emanations spiked again, but something was different about the pattern. Instead of the focused aggression typical of pre-attack behavior, the readings showed something closer to uncertainty. "This is unprecedented," Dr. Quintal whispered, his 4 eyes fixed on the readouts streaming across his analysis screens. The Drachmarie's psychological assault appears to be ineffective. The human's neural patterns show awareness of the psychic pressure, but no sign